We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for business owners buying a business. And we have a success, and it's really cool. And so, Elise and Anthony over in Germany, they went ahead and put an offer in on a company. It did not get accepted. And so, where is the success in that? Is because of, Elise said it's because of how much they learned, and they have a new idea, and they might buy another company, this company, um, based on everything that we all looked at. um, Based on everything we looked at, the person who bought it, I think, might wish that they hadn't, because I think they paid way too much for it. So again, we often look at success and failure. We can look and think something's successful and it's not. We can think something's a failure and it's not. So what seems to be a failure can be a success, and what seems to be a success can be a failure. So, all right. So, Luke had a question. There's a gentleman that said his biggest challenge was he's wanted to pay his employees more, and he's booked out a year in advance. So he's got over a year of work to do, and he wants to pay his employees more. So paying your employees more is a noble thing to do. That's a great thing to do. Love to do it. It should be done. And so it's pretty simple. You either have to go ahead and take less profit, or you have to go ahead and become more profitable. And that you could become more profitable by being more efficient in what you do. Or you could go ahead and you could be more efficient in what you do, or you could charge more. So those are pretty much your options on what you're doing. You got to do those things to be able to, to pay your people more. And so a lot of times in business, like, understanding that is not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. So it's not brain surgery. It's not rocket science on understanding that. It's like, okay, so I either have to get the work done sooner so we make more profit as a company, so, we can share that, as bonuses or whatever with the team members, or we need to take less profit. Like if we're taking 10% profit, well, we can take 5% profit and give that to the employees. So we can do that. Or we need to charge more. And so all of those things are fairly easy conceptually, but execution wise, that's another story. And so what I would recommend, if you're listening and you haven't done the business x-ray, I would for sure have you do that, because that one's going to be really important. And I would do it for any business that you're looking at buying as well. All right. Anything else, Luke, that you wanted to accomplish today?
I don't think so.
All right. Another question that we had is just curious on how much to prepare and how much to invest to come out on top in the economy in which we're in, and political and all the stuff that's going on. The big picture answer, or the detail answer, is I don't know. Nobody does. They just don't. The big picture answer is, in owning your own company, buying a company, you want to run as lean as you possibly can. Keep the debt down to nothing if you can. Keep your monthly expenses down as much as you can. In being able to do that, get it to where you can run really lean and really mean. When I was at Preferred Mortgage Associates, the president of the company came up a few years after I was there. He says, "Mark, you're very unusual. There's nobody in the company like you." I said, "Okay, well, what does that mean?" And he says, "You not only know how to make a whole lot of money, Mark, but you just don't spend it." So Dave Ramsey, great, highly recommend him. My parents had a simpler system than his. My parents was really simple. You just work really hard, work a lot. and don't spend any money on anything. Like that's pretty much what their philosophy in life was. And it served them well. And so in looking at the economy and what's going on in your business, so Tony said, yeah, you not only know how to make a lot of money, but you don't spend it. You know how to invest it. You know how to save it. You don't go ahead and get a nicer car. You don't get a nicer house. You don't, just because you have the money doesn't mean you got to spend it. So that's good. One of the things that I've been working on is I recognized a couple of weeks ago through Coffee Connection. If you're not participating in that every single month, I would encourage you to do so. And so I'd encourage you to get part of the core group, and I'd encourage you to do the debrief. So I'm 62 years old. I've been in business over 40 years, owned 9 companies. And I've never had anybody ask me, Mark, do you think you're a good team builder? If somebody had, I think that I probably would say, I'm not sure I am. But this last Coffee Connection and the debrief afterwards, I realized that I suck as building a team. And Nora's the one that helped me to see that. And so her son wasn't feeling well. She had I don't know, 2-3 hours of sleep. She showed up for the 6:30 in the morning podcast, the 7 o'clock in the podcast, stuck around, came to the Coffee Connection, and then went through the first one at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, she stuck around. And then she went through the debrief at 2 o'clock. And at the end of the debrief, which was a half an hour, I said to her, and I'll never forget, I said, Nora, why do you, we had other people, it would have been fine. Why are you still around? And she's like, because we're a team. And so, it cut right down into my heart. And I'm like, have you ever been part of a team before, a good team? And she said, yeah, when I was 14 years old, my first job, outside the home as a busser, waiting, so cleaning tables and putting new tables up. When I was 14 years old, that's a job I did. I said, okay, tell me more. She said, well, there were 4 bussers, and when one of them wasn't there, it impacted the other 3. And so here, as a 14-year-old girl, she learned something that I don't know how many people learned. No. So I've developed a survey on team, and it's been fascinating. And what I realized is there are some people that don't realize, let's say Coffee Connection, they don't look at they're a part of that team. And so I think the first step for people in building successful teams, the first step sounds obvious, but it's are you on the team? Do you want to be on the team? And so I thought all the core people, wanted to be on the team, thought they were on the team, but they didn't. So that explains a whole bunch of behavior. I don't understand, why don't people show up for the debrief? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why don't people do this? And why don't people do this? And so, why do I plan my vacations around Coffee Connection? Is because I'm part of a team. So Nora knew that without training from me. But I don't think other people have given it thought. And I never realized it. So I didn't ask, do you feel that you're a part of this team? Do you feel this is a team? Do you feel that you're a part of the team? And so yes or no. Do you feel you're a good team member? Do you feel, so there's questions that need to be asked of people, and people need to go ahead. And so I think a lot of people want the benefits of being the part of the team, but they don't want the responsibilities that go to it. So I've never sat down and said, what are the responsibilities to being a great team member? And so I think people need to be taught this is a team. I think people need to then be taught to understand what benefits are you gaining from the team and what responsibilities do you think in being part of the team. So there's the first survey, and that was very enlightening for me. I mean, very much so. Now there's a second survey that's noodling in my head, and this helps me to articulate it. And so in the Top Gun Sales Bootcamp training, that is fascinating training. And so there's a lot of thoughts that going and connecting all of these things together. Luke, any questions you have on any of that we covered?
On the team building, so I guess we kind of went through the the two steps. So the one is determine if I'm on the team. Two is determine if the benefits I gain from being part of the team. Like, how
And
do
then
you?
the third step is what benefits do I want to gain part of the team? So let's say there's 4 levels of participation in the team. Everybody wants the benefits probably of a level 3 and 4. Well, there's 4 levels of participation too. So if you're only participating at level 1, you're only going to gain level 1 benefit. I don't think people realize that. So I think they
Gotcha.
need to be taught that.
So how do you make sure you're not expecting a level 4 when you're investing a level 1?
Well, that's where it has to be mapped out to bring congruency to it. So this is where I think a lot of tension is, because I don't understand. I've just learned to accept it. One of the people I thought was a core team member, somebody else came and just said, they didn't know the person. They just said, based on how this person showed up at Coffee Connection, they're lazy. They do the minimum that's required. They made a judgment of this individual. So that's the energy, that's the aura that this individual is giving off. And they probably don't even know it. So it's helping it to go through a series of questions and getting people to think about, well, what do I want? So most people want a level 4. They're going to want to have the highest benefit by being part of a team. Okay. But most people don't realize, well, to get a level 4, you've got to need to give. You've got to give a level 4 at a minimum. And you're probably going to think you're giving a level 6. You might only be given a level 3.
Mm-hmm.
Good questions. Other questions, Luke?
There's something I'm missing, something I should be asking or
Why
could
are
be
you
asked.
developing 2 people? Like in the Top Gun Sales Bootcamp training, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, develop people.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is when you learn to develop people, you're developing people, and then you can earn money based on their energy efforts, the 7 T's: time, talent, treasure, trust, temple, truth, and thought. So when you're developing people, which comes to recruiting and then developing, onboarding and developing those people, as you help them succeed, they'll help you succeed.
Copy that. That makes sense.
So 2 people, like who are 2 people as a reflex, like this podcast today, as a reflex, are there at least 2 people you're like, I'm going to get them to listen to this podcast? That's a reflex. It doesn't, It just happens. Like anytime you go through a podcast, what are two people, minimum of two people that you're going to go ahead and share? And if you can get 20 people in a group or 40 or 200, 2,000, the more people that you can get in the group, the people that you care about in a similar manner, the more leverage you're going to have. Make
Got
sense?
it. Hmm.
Cool. Ben, any questions, thoughts, anything you have?
I was asked this morning to bring up something. Um,
Yeah, so we kind of covered that. And so it was, so it was just curious how much to prepare and how much to invest to come out on top based on the economy, the political, all of that. That's the question, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, like I had said, you jumped off. And so, but I can say it real quick. You don't know specifically. Nobody knows. I mean, today in the wall or yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, they talked about how gold wasn't acting like it normally does. Normally, when this happens, gold goes down, or when that happens, gold goes up. And it's not happening the way it normally is. So nobody knows really what's going on. And so, as a general rule, though, you want to go ahead and work hard and be consistent, keep your debt as low as possible, pay it off, be debt free, because that's where you're going to have financial freedom. And if you have financial freedom, that's going to reduce your stress immensely. And it's going to also go ahead and help you um, physically, emotionally, relationally, everything when you have
So
financial freedom.
so before John died, I was pretty lean and mean.
Yep.
I would say a lot more mean and lean than I am now.
Do you know why that
Um,
is?
I got some sort of satisfaction of having more money than my peers.
Okay. So you worked hard, you saved, and so now you're married. And so when you're married and you have a house, that's going to require more financial.
Woman takes all your money.
Well, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure she was the one, she's definitely the one just pushing for that four wheeler. Yeah.
That was to get away from her.
Yeah. He's joking. He's joking, for sure. And um, so yeah, there's the balance is so you were trained very at a very young age to be frugal from your grandparents, from your parents, and so you picked up that very well in being able to do it. So is there a question there?
Well, the realization of, you could die at any point, and I mean, I was pretty close to not going on that vacation with John when I went with him month before he died. I was pretty close to not doing it. I would say almost, it was really close, just because I didn't want to spend that kind of money doing that kind of thing. And there's a point of where it's like, yeah, I could save 30, 40 grand or whatever. And then, or I could go on a nice vacation with my wife before I have kids, you know? And so there's like I don't know, is there like a limit where it's like maybe every other year we go on a nice vacation? Once a year we go
Does
on a
a
nice
nice
vacation?
does a nice vacation mean 30 or 40 grand?
Well, the grand part was just like, where's the point of where it's like, how much do I save to where I'm like, okay, now I can go on every 6 months. Do I have
Right,
to be a half millionaire to be able to do that?
right. So I mean, percentages I think are really good to discipline yourself, and so I believe it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. And so how do you get rid of the love? You're generous, you give. So, I've always practiced tithing, giving money ever since I was just a young boy. So I think that's good to do. I think saving for, the short term, future, maybe a year, 2 year saving into retirement, those type of things. So there's long term saving and other saving. I think, like
So
it,
I mean, I invest in 401k. I invest in, obviously, that they take out
yeah,
whatever amount for the other thing, which again, we don't expect that to ever actually be there. But what's the other one called?
Social Security.
Yeah, probably not going to be there. So I already kind of expect that as I already maxed out my 401k. I invest a certain amount into stocks. I put quite a bit into my savings. I have the 6 months of, whatever it's called,
Reserve. Yeah.
reserves. It's like, that's where it's like, I don't know. I have a house.
Right.
Haven't
So
invested into a company yet, but company kind of has a tendency to take away all your money and time. So it's like, do I even want
right,
to do that?
right. You think a
Right.
wife and kids are expensive. Oh my goodness. A company can be even more so. So I think
Right.
it's balance, Ben. I think it's making decisions. I think that consumption, the more you have, the more you want, the more you get, the more you want to get, the more you have, the more you want to get. It's consumption. It's the dopamine in the head. Why do people go shopping? Why do people go hunting? Why do people play pickleball? It's dopamine. It's in the brain. So it's not necessarily wrong, but if you don't go ahead and have
Moderate.
disciplines, if you don't have disciplines, especially financially, um, like I'm in a position now, I'm 62, and I'm in a position I don't have to work. Is that good or bad? It kills a lot of people because they don't have purpose in life.
Right.
And so, but the freedoms you have when you have financial disciplines are absolutely amazing. So, anything else, Ben or Luke, either of you have?
Nope,
I
not
feel
for
like
me.
I feel like there's always going to be some kind of recession, or we're worried about this, or we're worried about that. I don't know. I feel like it's always, something's not doing great. Like the beginning of the RV factory when I worked there, holy smokes, I had no idea what was happening. It was good, really good. Then now I'm just like, well, it looks scary. Like, do I always act like it's scary? And I think I need numbers or something where it's like, okay, I hit my goal. Does that mean I get something? Am I a dog then? Do I get a treat? Like, I don't like to think that way. So it's like
Well, I
everyone's
don't
like,
know
don't
that that's
reward yourself. You're not a
necessarily
dog.
wrong. Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily wrong. So you say when we save this amount of money, when we save this amount of money, then we get to go on vacation or we get to have this splurge. So it's rewarding it. So if you're saving money, scrimping money, if you're investing, if you're hitting certain goals and you reward yourself in those areas, I think that's good. You have to decide what those numbers are. You have to decide, what that's going to be like.
Do I decide that, or do I do that with my wife?
Oh, for sure, you include your wife.
Include my wife, or
Yeah,
decide then show my wife?
no, you include her in the decision making.
Oh. Because I think a dollar saving is pretty wild. And I think she would think that's exactly how much we need to save before we go on vacation.
So there tends to be, often in a marriage, there's often a saver and a spender. And so negotiating that and, navigating that. And so in my marriage, I would tend to be the saver. My wife would tend to be the spender. And so in my parents' life, my mom and my dad were both savers. And so they were both savers. Um, And so I think negotiating that, navigating through that, I think to where, okay, here's what it is. I think, there's like we waited, 35 years to go on our Hawaii vacation. And so delayed gratification, there's a marshmallow principle, and they studied kids in kindergarten, and they said, a kid in kindergarten, they said, here you get 2 marshmallows, and if you wait an hour, we're going to give you 4 more or something like that. If you want to eat them, you can. If you want to wait, like 90% of the class of the kids ate the marshmallows and didn't wait. There's like 10% of the class that, waited and got additional marshmallows to eat. They studied those kids for the next, 50 years. And the 10% of the kids that had delayed gratification went ahead and had more money, more wealth than the other 90% combined. So delayed gratification is a very powerful thing in life. So can we go ahead and delay the gratification? It almost
isn't that almost thinking like, oh, it's a weekend vibe?
It's
like,
a what?
You know how people say don't live for each weekend? Live your life like every day's a weekend.
Okay, well,
So my delayed gratification, I work really hard all week, get everything I can get done, and then the weekend comes around, and then I get to enjoy my Saturday and not have to worry about anything else because I delayed my gratification instead of, whatever. I wait until Saturday. So that's delaying gratification, but then it's doing what people say not to do.
Yeah,
am I not?
It's not deleting your gratification. Maybe it shouldn't be every week. Like maybe it's longer than that. Again,
maybe it's like one.
Well, that's the same for vacations.
Right. So we got to go. We got another one coming up here, but hopefully this is helpful, and for sure we can bring it up again next time. Appreciate you all. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.